Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my review of Viewfinder. This was an amazing game, man. An amazing game. Much love to the developers. I had a really great time. I really don't even have too many complaints, man. It was, yeah, like if I even start to get anything, this won't be the intro anymore. So without further ado, I would like to just thank you guys for checking out the video. I would thank the developers and everyone that worked on it and all the credits at the end, the art design, the music, everything for putting this together and manifesting it. It was a really great thing to play. Definitely worth, I will say, just to get it out of the way, not even leave this for the conclusion. I'll say it right here. It is a game that if you have not checked it out yourself, you should definitely play it. And also, I will say there will be clearly spoilers. I'll have some of the game footage I played through in here. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it because I'm ready to talk about it. This was a solid game and there was a lot of cool things, and there's probably Easter eggs and stuff I've still missed, but yeah. So anyways, enjoy the video. I'll see y'all. Peace. Book. So we have first impressions. First impressions of the game were like, okay, I think I've seen the trailer for this. I don't know if it's actually on my channel, but my first whole look, I think I seen the trailer and was like, nope, I want to leave this completely, like I want to go in completely blind and see what this game has to offer. And I'm so glad I did. It was like, I actually compared it, and not because of gameplay itself, but in sort of concept of bending reality and perspective and that type of genre of video game where it was like super liminal. I think that's the name of the game. Let's type it together. Super liminal. Yes, super liminal. It was super liminal. I was calling it like subliminal. I don't know what I said in the my playthrough, but if you're watching this before the playthrough, I don't know why, but go watch my playthrough of it. I feel like it's a much more natural experience to just get everything in my straight views on what the game was like. But Superliminal is definitely another game I'm gonna knock out after Viewfinder because I think Viewfinder was such a clean game to play. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, man, it was just one of those really well put together games that you can bend reality and just mess around with the physics of the game. And I think that is one of the most important things about any game. What was I saying? I have to go play it back to remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, okay. Somewhere along the lines, pastoral of messing around with physics and things like that. I think that is what makes games some of the funnest things to play by far. So, for example, a game like The Finals that is coming out right now, that is made by veteran Battlefield devs, I feel like the appeal of that game is all the appeal that, well, at least for me, because I was a child when I remember playing Bad Company, but all the appeal of that game is the destruction of the buildings and everything you could do and how the guns feel and the reload animations and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not saying that Viewfinder has any of that, but there is destruction and chaos within this game on a crazy level as you start to progress through the game. And I like how it ends up unveiling itself to you because it's just, it's actually, the destruction has an interesting synchronicity with the mindsets of the masterminds behind the whole, at least interacting within the technology of the simulation. I don't know if they created it, and I'm still being at the end of the game, don't know if they created the simulation, but we're going to get into all that. I think they discovered the ancient technology too, or it was made by them. And I'm assuming it was like kind of people in our day and age. You know, we don't actually get a timeline or anything like that, which is cool too. I feel like that's the mystery of the game of like, is this a distant future or a near future sort of thing? And it leaves that up for interpretation from the player. It was honestly, it was magnificently displayed, and I might be hyping it, but honestly, it is, dude. I'm saying it because I played it back to back. I did not get off, and when a game hooks me like that, whether it's indie, AAA, or whatever, it doesn't matter. I have to regard it, at least in my own perspective, as a really solid game. I mean, it was fun. it was fun. And I didn't even get into doing the time trials or anything like that. Again, they were very forgiving, which that could be to each their own. I kind of do wish some of the objects were a little bit more difficult to find, but still, I like how forgiving they were, so you could actually discover all the collectibles. The We'll get into the camera filters and all that later. So let me not, because see, this is where I'm realizing I have to get out of a certain segment of what I'm talking about, or I'm going to start bleeding into the other things. So that's it for first impressions. It was solid. I walked into the world and was like, oh man, what are we getting into? And there's actually a crazy moment that I'll say, but I'll leave it for gameplay. That would have been, it was actually a crazy first impression when it happened, but I'll save that for you going to check out my playthrough. But anyways, let's get into the next segment. So I have this section called gameplay and art style, and it's going to be very hard to talk about these individually because of how well everything meshes together. So honestly, I'll call each segment what it is, and just you're probably going to hear sorts of the same things over and over. So I'll try not to ramble, but the gameplay is cool. It's a basically perspective gameplay, messing with obstacle illusions, illusions itself, lining certain angles and perspectives up to create doorways into more realities, and it's just an overall bending reality game, and it's cool to experience because it almost feels like what my lucid dreams feel like. Literally being conscious in your dreams and being able to just shape and bend and flip things upside down. And if you're familiar with Jujutsu Kaisen, it's like a domain expansion in the game. Shoot, as you get towards the end, it looks more like Sukuna's domain, or at least after what he did to Shibuya. So sorry for the spoiler, but anyways, it's cool. The gameplay is very fluid, and that's another thing, at least from my own experience, that's what you go through. Maybe I should have actually said that in I'm saying it now. That's what I want to say. These are all my own personal feelings with the game. Maybe, so just take that for what it I had a really great experience. Take that for what it is. But it was so fluid that I couldn't stop going from level to level. And funny enough, they actually named one of the achievements. I didn't know these were optional, or I did those were in, it blah, blah, blah. Accidentally, I didn't know I was doing the optional levels. That was funny because I noticed the glitching of some of the teleporters, and yeah, the optional levels, like, it was just like, you just went from level to level to level. I don't want to talk too much about the level action. Let me check. Let me refer to the book. Actually, I can, because of art style. The art style. Oh, I flipped art style and characters because the characters tie into it. We'll still do it in order. I'll do it. I forgot my little arrows, but yeah, this is what's cool about the gameplay too, is each character that you follow within the world has their own style and little unique quirk to their workspaces. And that's pretty much what you're doing. You're also a researcher. I guess the biggest thing is to explain the world you're in. It's one of those dystopian worlds where we've used all the resources, we've polluted the air, we've destroyed everything, and it's like a Wall-E type thing where Wall-E had that little plant in his hand. That's what I ended up realizing. It's that, and this should probably belong in story. So let's go back to gameplay. When I go to the characters, I'll start tying in story. But yeah, so back to the gameplay. It's fun. It is literally fun. And in the beginning, I thought it was going to be too easy, and maybe for other people it might be challenging. Again, that varies on person to person. For me, I was able to figure out the puzzles fairly quickly, and even thinking from a gameplay, everything clicked together. Everything worked well together. There was one point where it was so trippy with the whole teleporting or capturing man, I don't even know. Gameplay feels so limited. It feels like the art style and everything else is what I need to talk about. But it feels limited for me to talk about without incorporating the other things, because the other things are what it's like. This is just one really great amalgamation of all the systems working together, with the quirks of the characters being like their personalities being shown within the actual things you're doing. So I want to save this for characters, but basically you can imagine this, right? Say I was one of the engineers of this simulation, and you came to my world. My reality would be based on parts of parts of my personality. So I'm a gamer, so you'd probably find gaming references, or you would find stacks of games, maybe posters of like Resident Evil, things I liked. And maybe I was also into, what can I whip up? Oh, I'm into dance. I'm a dancer. So maybe you would find a dance floor in my workshop somewhere, and just like random corners, and they each made their own little reality. So I really like that. And I think with that, that would be a good segment into the characters, to talk about how the art style also ties into that. I took a little bit of a break, had some food. Now I'm ready to tackle this. Last time I remember, last thing I remember was going from gameplay into the characters. And that is the best transition, because look, this is really cool. So I'm going to try to remember the characters' names off the top of my head. First, we have Aaron. Aaron. We had Aaron. Aaron. We have Aaron. We have Haraya, Chi Luang, and Mirren, right? I'm pretty sure it's four of them, but they and then Mirren called Chi Luang. There might be a fifth in there I'm missing. It might be Luang and Chi Luang, but I don't know. But for the most part, it's Aaron, Hiraya, Chi Luang, Mirren, and then we have our playable character who's faceless, voiceless, a bunch of shaggy shadow lines, and we have Jesse, who's also a bunch of shadowy, jagged lines behind one of those weird warpy walls. You know, that glass that like doesn't show a perfect image all the way through, but you can see something is obviously on the other side of that glass. What is that called? And is it glass? Is it like a melted but then cooled type of glass, or is it like a oobleck, like padded sort of, I don't know. But, and then we have, most importantly, justice for Kate. We have Kate, which is Mirren's cat AI. Oh my gosh, is that what it stands for? Like Kate, because cat AI and then T? Wow, clever. If that is actually, you sandwiched AI between cat. But those are our characters. Now, why is it a good transition over from gameplay? Well, each character has their own what is it? Each character has their own gameplay mechanic slash environmental mechanic. And I'm going to try to tell, like, at least I'm going to capture the gist of what each one is, because some of them kind of have like a couple things. Yeah, let's just get to that part. So the whole thing with Aaron's whole style, Aaron, gotta roll the R, or it's like you gotta roll the AH, the Aaron. But Aaron's whole thing is he is like an artist. I'm probably not gonna go do their professions any justice, but it ties into like their person. You'll see what I mean. Aaron's more like the artist. He's got like the evil eyes all over the map. You know that it's his little mark on the world if the evil eyes are hanging somewhere, or it's very painty, canvas-esque type of leveling. And even when they drop, because each one leaks into each other, and to create this whole beautiful thing. But Aaron's is all painty, and you've got the you've got like I don't really know how to explain it. His whole thing is that like this whole capturing moments on a canvas, and it's like picture inside a picture sort of thing. So let me give you an example. He'll paint a canvas, right, of a house. I was gonna give you an example, but I could just show you. But it's better because I'm just using the gameplay kind of all over the place. Spoiler. No, I'm gonna try to line it up with each of them. But his whole thing is that like it's these beautiful, like he'll paint a windmill, right? Two windmills, and you can pick up this canvas of a windmill and use it, and it goes out, and then you can actually step into his paintings, and that's the whole thing behind him. He makes these beautiful landscapes or beautiful landscapes in picture frames, and then when you actually use them within the game, because it's like when you pick them up, you sort of like mind blow it out into existence, into the simulation. You like make it happen. You know, it's easier than saying click. I gotta make it more mystic because that's the, you know, the illusion that the game's trying to give you. But you're basically minding it into it. It's easy. You manifest it in front of you, and his whole thing is like walking through pictures, through picture, through picture. So it's even shown in his optional level, or his extra little level that's off from the main levels, where it's like you're flipping each level to kind of go through this maze like whole thing, and it's pretty cool. It reminds me of that new, I don't know if it's a new trend that's going on, but with the digital artists where they zoom in super small to like an overall painting they're doing, and they'll draw like a little cell phone, and then they'll zoom back, and like that iPhone's like on a little island, and then they'll zoom out of that, and it's like a planet. That's kind of like Aaron's whole shtick. It's like picture and picture and picture. So hopefully I did that justice. Haraya's whole thing is music. That's why I say there's a little bit more to him, but her whole thing is music, botany, herbalist, herbs, and musician, and things about nature and this more natural. She's got a Zen feel. She's got this whole Zen feel. He does too. He's got the spiritual. It's cool because because the two others are really like counter that, but it all blends together. You know how reality is. It's like all of us here. It's the different perspectives, but different perspectives and archetypes of characters down here. Us. Let's keep going. So Haraya, she's all naturey, and also her whole shtick is you like walking in front of these paintings, and they're like best way I could describe it, which I'm probably showing on screen also, is it's like, say I had, it's funny because I'm going to be showing it on screen probably, but say I had a painting right here. Oh no. Okay, say I had a painting right here. Oh my gosh, I got to redo this. I'm realizing that it's just better and just easier to just show you probably on screen, but I also want you to experience it for yourself. But her whole thing is like, say you had paintings on sticks, right? And you carved out, say you had a canvas, right? And you carved out sections of that canvas and then stretched them out, right? So you create that optical illusion where when you walk around it, it's like, it's nothing. It's just like floating pieces. But when you align yourself just right in standing in one position and looking at it, it creates the whole picture. So that's her whole thing. It's like walking through like that. And it's actually funny that I think Aaron likes her, so it almost shows how their styles like are similar. They kind of go together. He's more painty and picture inside picture, and she's more line it up, and it all clicks together. And then her other thing is obviously plants, so her levels were very plant orientated. Best review ever. Plant orientated, and you had herbs everywhere. You had biofiltration systems, and her notes revolved around plants degrading and everlasting plants. I don't know if she wanted that. No, because that's very important to the story. But we're gonna get the story after. And yeah, so hers were the floral levels, and his were artsy. So it was pretty cool. And also during the gameplay, there are these recorders, like the old phone. What do you call them? Are they like the old mega? It's like the little. I knew the name. I'm gonna look it up. I did know it. It was a record player. I was calling it. I was like disc with megaphone on it. But record players. There's record players around that you can hear while they were doing their research and enjoying each other's time. And yeah, there's a whole thing on that too. But that, for the most part, is her. Herbs, plants, everything, growth and soils and blah de blah and things of that nature. So that was pretty. That was pretty cool. She honestly, I her. We'll get to that in the. We'll get to that in the conclusion. Next, we have Chi Luang. His levels were cool. So, and their personalities also represent. Well, they play into what is going on, but Chi Luang is the one he's the engineer. He's in charge of the teleporters. I had a brain fart. He's in charge of the teleporters. He's in charge of the. Did they design the camera for him for his birthday? I gotta remember, but it was his birthday, and they made the camera, but he was basically the one. He didn't like to take credit for. He was kind of like he's doing his work for the greater good. Engineering, having a good old time. He's got his weights all over the place. That's what I mean. It was like parts of their personality shown in what they had in their setups, and even the optional, the little collectibles that you could get to. Like Aaron had the rubber duckies. Haraya had the magnets on the fridge, and he had the mahjong pieces. So throughout that, which is funny, is throughout the beginning levels, they talk about how he likes playing mahjong and how he just challenges everyone in mahjong. That was, I think, really in the beginning. But his whole thing is the mahjong pieces, and then when you go to his place, his little hobby is weights. So when you go through his workspaces, his realities, his levels of where he was doing his work and moving on to the next one, he had like weights in some places. Were the Dustins in his level? I think he designed the Dustins, but I don't remember if this is confirmed. I may be wrong. Don't quote me on this. But I think he designed the Dustins. But all I know is he is the one that is responsible for most of the teleporting technology, and I guess anything that really connects to those and are similar technology to that. Because I think the Dustins are his design. But we'll get to the Dustins in a second because that was funny. Honestly, no, we shouldn't get to the Dustins. You got to see it and play for yourself, or watch my playthrough. The Dustin part was very funny. I did exactly what I think they were hoping for you to do naturally, and then got one of the achievements. Now we're going off to the Mastermind. Mirren the Mastermind. So Mirren was cool. Mirren was the one that, like I came to the conclusion, okay, I could start seeing their personalities. It's way better to watch my playthrough to see how I kind of started connecting everything. But she was the one that was like ambitious. Well, they were all ambitious, but she was super ambitious, super result driven, orientated scientist, talk about like, I need my numbers. I need my things figured out. I need to get it done, this and that. And I knew she was going to ultimately clash with the girl who was the most artistic, with sound frequencies and nature and everything having a rise and a fall and everything naturally degrading and growing and rebirthing. She was more on which is Haraya. Haraya was more on that things being natural, cycles, blah, blah, blah. And Mirren was more like the numbers and push forward in the AI, which is reflected in making Kate, the cat AI, and she's more just that. But all the other three besides her realized, like, well, Chi realized it was like Chi Luang. He was like, you need to talk to her and stuff like that. And yeah, because and Mirren was self-aware. She was like I think she said in one of the notebooks I picked up that her personality kind of clashed with some of the others, which mainly Haraya, because it's like, she wants to push for everything to work out, basically, because I got to get into the story. Did I do this in a weird order? And that's what basically they want to save the world. So there's like this whole thing going on with the weather and everything, but it's just not much of a story. But I wanted to split it up into a segment. But I guess I'll save it for her part. But she's the mastermind, of all of it. I think brought them all together. Jesus, making it seem like I wasn't paying attention. Honestly, they all came together though. That's the whole point. And she just was really the one throughout the whole story, just needing them on top of their stuff. But it didn't actually seem too bad. Like that's what I want to say. From the way it was built up through learning the story through the recorders, because that's why your main character and Jesse are here. Your main character and Jesse are here after they've long since abandoned the simulation, but there's no time frame given. And like I said, that could be up to for you to interpret when the events are taking place, because I don't know how long after your character discovers the simulation and all that jazz, but that's the whole thing, is that it's after, I don't know how far. And you're looking for Mirren's research, basically, because she finally got everything to come together, or at least they discovered something. I don't want to really spoil that for you. I would like you to see the end, but pretty much, she was the one that brought them all together. If I could tie this all together, she was the one that really wanted to save the climate, because that was the whole thing that was going on. It was like, I'm pretty sure, because when you're playing your character, you get to see the world for a second and it's like polluted. So I'm going to say the main goal was to find a way to clear most of the pollution or recycle it so we can get oxygen back, because it was like oxygen levels were becoming almost like a commodity, like a sought after commodity. Like you need, now we're buying oxygen type shit. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Mirren, I think that's the best way I can explain Mirren. Mirren was like the brains of the whole operation, like in terms of she was the mastermind of all of it, but she played a big role, brains. Qilong was like, he had a big role to play for everything working and connecting together. And then the two more artsy people came together with bringing the new ideas, growth, and like the designs of everything, and like literally adding like a feng shui to each. It's like everybody played their role and it meshed together, and it's that whole thing. So it comes together really, really well and beautiful. And all their personalities really, it shows how like coming together in real life could, but all the heads coming together from different areas and different perspectives really can find a solution, basically. And that's pretty much it for the story too, as well. Coming down to the story is their researchers. My ears just went and just heard everything because this was blocking some of the sound frequencies. But that's what it comes down to ultimately. They were all researchers, designers, and masters in their field in their own right that came together that wanted to solve this crisis that was going on the planet. And we don't get time frames within the story. And I'm pretty sure I cleared a lot of the game. I read as many journals, and I never once got a timeline of when all this was happening. But that's basically the story. Your main character is coming in with Jesse. Jesse's like watching you go through the simulation. I'm assuming like it's okay that they didn't show any of this. The game still, it's like your imagination can fill that part in. But yeah, I guess you were literally hooked in this machine, or you went into a sleep or something like that. Your consciousness came with you, obviously, like a lucid dream, but I guess your body was hooked up to this machine when you're in the center of it. So I'm imagining some like thing came down and put you in it. But man, is that a trippy part when that happens. But when it's revealed that you're inside that. But yeah. I kind of didn't want to spoil, so that like messed me up, but there's going to be spoilers anyways. I got to talk. It's a review. But yeah, so the most part is you and Jesse are looking for their own research. Mostly Mirren's. You came for Mirren's, but you get to explore all the beautiful worlds of her colleagues that were with her and friends, I mean, colleagues can be your friends, but you know what I'm saying? So it's really, yeah. And the one moment that you come out of the simulation to kind of see what was going on in the world, it's really, I do actually wish the story was just expanded upon a little bit more. That's the only thing I would say. Everything else seems really well in the short amount of time that you get to know each character. The like stereotypes of the characters work really well, really quickly in the little amount of time, which is, I mean, 10 hours, like nine-ish, 8-ish hours is really actually short. You play the game faster, but I think I've literally picked up and moved everything around and sat in chairs. So in in my playthrough, yeah, it felt like they did that very well. They did the characters very well in a short amount of time, learning all of them, and it felt like you could feel and know them. But what sucked is it felt too short to feel too connected. Like I resonated with the feeling of having to keep going, the willpower, the failures in some right. Like I resonated with it, but if I spent longer with the characters, hear more of the frustration in each of them, maybe times where they got down I felt like I didn't. It kind of I jumped to each level too quickly. This is kind of getting into the conclusion. Oh man, I'm sorry. You're gonna probably hear me say this again in the conclusion. But that's pretty much it for the story. The one moment you get is when you exit the simulation and you go to reset the power on the whole simulation. And after you reset the power, you can look out the window and it's like all red. It's entirely red. What the hell did we do? Or what the hell did they do in that reality? But then you hop back in the simulation and then it's basically you never really think about it again. It doesn't really feel like this impending seriousness. That's almost where I would say the writing in the story kind of like falls short, is that it doesn't feel like you're on this serious mission. But I low key want to say that I think that is partially intended, or maybe at least 75% intended. And I could be completely wrong, and that's okay if I'm wrong. And I'll get to what I mean in the conclusion. But the story works for just being in the background and the focus being on the gameplay and the art and the music, the ambient music. Man, I really love the music towards the end. Ooh, man, I got to talk about that ending. I think that ending should just get its own section. So I actually know what to call this section. This section right here will be called puzzles, ending puzzle, and all of that jazz. Now, I'm not going to spoil the complete ending of the game, so y'all never have to worry about that. But the ending, I'm going to talk about the level of the puzzle difficulty. So I would have actually liked like Hira's levels to just completely amp it up. For me, they came super easy, and that's actually not bad. But I would have wished for more difficult puzzles, definitely. Even the optional levels should have been a little bit crazier. I feel like definitely if there's ever a DLC or a Viewfinder 2 or something along the lines of that, that would actually be cool too. I want to save that for the conclusion, so I don't want to talk about it. But roughly, the puzzles were easy, and this actually could serve as an entry, like puzzle figuring out type of game for people. I actually have a game to play called Superland. I think it's Supraland, and puzzles in that are actually fairly easy too. I don't know. It's just it's like a nice game to go through. It's just like something to experience. And yeah, and the puzzles aren't too difficult. They do throw some challenge when you start getting to the end though. The optical illusions part, those were catching me. Those were funny. I couldn't believe I was getting caught by some of those. And definitely Mirren's part towards the end of the game was absolutely nuts. That end of the game, I'm not gonna spoil what the ending is, but basically it ties in everything all together of everything you learned, all the quirks of the other characters, every ability you get. Oh my gosh, there's this cool like, or not, well not, it's, yeah, I want to almost say as new abilities, but these new ways to use the certain cameras. There's like standing cameras, and you could take a picture of your character, and then when you use the image, when you basically blink at the, oh, it's so weird to even explain the angles. I should have actually talked about that in gameplay. I'm gonna go back. Actually, I'm gonna talk about it now. That is actually what's so weird about the gameplay too, is that the way you angle the images and everything, you can like create. You just like think outside of the box about how to create angles and bridges and like almost like there was one point where I created like stepping stones. The way you can use the copier. Oh man, that's also like part of the gameplay that's so cool. I think I went in this with the intention of not trying to spoil too much, but I'll just say here for the puzzle parts, like there's a copying machine where you can copy certain images that you use. Oh yeah, wait, I should go back and explain that. Well, anyways, for the most part, um, I'll just call this puzzle and more gameplay. That's what I should have talked about in gameplay. The pictures, you use a camera basically at one point when you get the camera off, and then you take pictures of scenes, and then you can recreate that scene. But it's just it works so well. I feel like I'm not even doing it justice explaining it. It's like one of those games where you have to literally play it and see it for yourself. But when it ties into how you have to figure out the puzzles, that's what makes it crazy. You can orient the photos in different ways to change how the photo is going to affect the reality when you use it. And like even objects that can fall, like these batteries, I'll say, that can fall to charge the teleporters, um, you can like duplicate them. Like okay, yeah, you know what, yeah, there is actually more about the gameplay that I could explain. But say you have a battery or something that can fall in one image like a melon, right? You can aim it in the sky, like take a picture of the battery, aim it in the sky, and have a duplicate one drop from the sky. And now that is like a reality that's like upside down because of what you did. Or you can even like look at the ground and say I had a picture of a castle and I looked at the ground and then manifested the castle. I would fall through the floor into this whole new castle. It was quite something. And when it revolved the puzzles, dude, the puzzles towards the end got a little bit crazy. But I don't want to reveal too much at the end. But again, just to remind myself, but the time trial towards the end of the game is wild, bro. Like they actually had me on edge with how I thought I was gonna get like the bad ending. That's what I was keeping in mind too. I didn't know if this game had different multiple endings or something like that. So when I pulled that lever, I was like, and I'll let you guys go explore that for yourself. But it was sick. It was sick. That combined all the other gameplay mechanics into it, and you got to move fast. So yeah. So there's actually a timed mode for the levels that I want to go turn on and try. That is in the settings, which that would have actually been cool to play the game like that from the beginning. But definitely those puzzles at the end, towards the end, when you started getting the Chi Luang's levels and Mirren's, that timer would have been nuts. It would have definitely been nuts. But yeah, man, it's fun, fun. Yeah, it's fun. There was one puzzle actually that I'll talk about in particular that really stumped me for a little bit, and it was the box, man. You can see it in my playthrough, and that is actually the one where I messed up the audio, where the book I was looking for a hint, and it felt like on the book they gave a hint, and it was like become like a pencil. And I was like, what? So I was thinking of ways of orienting myself where the battery would look slim and then I could take a picture of it. But here's the problem. When you get to Mirren's levels, or Chi Luang's too, it's Mirren's levels, there's this purple, like haze. Like Prince would have been proud. There's these purple, this inorganic, I guess, coated material that like just shapes and forms the when you're looking at it and it's breathing. It's like a living organism breathing, right? But it does not show up in pictures. So the batteries were like infected with this, so you couldn't just take a picture of these batteries. You had to find a way to physically pick up the battery and find workarounds around these, and those were stumping me at first. And the one where the literal it's in a cage, I was like, what? But you know what actually stuck out to me about become the pencil? Something unique. I'm not gonna tell y'all, but I'm gonna show you. I'm probably gonna show that level that I'm talking about. maybe, or just, go explore it for yourself. You gotta, that's where you gotta keep some of the mystery in it. You guys gotta take all of what I'm saying from literally trying to be mysterious. You gotta play it yourself. I definitely say it's 100% worth it, 100%. But yeah, it's like entry puzzles, and then the ones at the end, they are difficult. But it's like, if I were to give it a scale, it goes like this. Literally, this is how the whole entire game feels. It's like, for me, in terms of difficulty, it's like easy, medium, well, a little difficult, hard. So it's like the end of the game really ramps up. It's not really the beginning, mid, to even the beginning of the end. It's literally easy, medium, whoa, hard. So yeah, so that's how the best way I can explain it with the puzzles. But worth it. The optional ones, they did give me a little bit of a run for my money in some of them, but some of them I figured out really quickly too. And I liked how the game makes you feel about it too, and how it gives these subtle like chimes when you've done something that is getting you closer to your goal, which is beating the puzzle and go to the next level. My final thoughts are, truthfully, I would have wanted more levels, or a system where you could build your own levels and own puzzles. Oh, I didn't even check if that's an option in the game. Or I feel like there's definitely ways they could expand on making it like a game that's there's just so many places they could go. I've never heard of the developers before, so I don't know if this is like their first game. But if it is, y'all, that was so worth every penny. Like, and worth all the hours put in, for sure, for sure, for sure. I definitely did want more levels, but from of the levels that you guys did, you guys really thought outside of the box with a lot of those and put together some really cool levels. And I enjoyed the puzzles. My favorite was Mirren's levels. Like when I got started getting to the end, but as you see through my playthrough, each time my mind was blown and caught off guard by what happened with a certain mechanic, and to that should have just speak for itself with my actual experience throughout the game. It was really cool. There was really like, to me, the story was bland. Like it was okay. It was like kind of like a Wall-E thing, dystopian, and that's why I say some of my final thoughts on this are just that it was 75% supposed to be focused on messing with perspective and bending reality, while having an overall relatable story in terms of like creativity and borderline spirituality and reality bending stuff, and this also cautionary tale about certain things, which is like the like, yes, weather and climate change and all of that sort of thing going on. And through the playthrough, you hear me also talk about harp. So to me, I get the story, everything. To me, it was just kind of like blah. But it was mostly, I feel like the devs low key were showing off everyone in the team, their the music and the ambient sounds and just the beauty of the landscapes that you can create. And even like there's a barcode part, and maybe I'll put the footage here, but there's a part, well, no, actually I say you definitely go watch my playthrough to see some of this stuff. But there's a barcode that you pick up. It's just like a little barcode, and then when you manifest it into reality, it becomes this whole barcode forest. Like, what you guys thought of? Like, I wish I was a part of some of these. Like, I almost wish there was more stuff like that in the game. It was just too cool. It was really, really too cool. There was this map part that I got to towards the end of the game, where it was a map, and it was like one of those, I don't know, like it was like Google Maps. Picture Google Maps, right? Picture you holding like a sheet of Google Maps of like New York, and then manifesting it out, like being able to walk on top of the map with the whole topography lines and all that jazz. And then there was like a random castle icon in the top left of it that was interactable, and I picked that up, and then you pick that up and open it, and it's an entire castle, blue castle. What? That was cool. That was just like shocking. That was really cool. That was really cool. And another thing was like the melon, like you could slice the melon with the pictures because the pictures kind of get like pushed out. So if you got the melon on the floor, you can just aim the picture of at half of the melon and then shoot it out, and the melon is literally a melon inside the seeds. Dude, it was so cool. That was like so cool. That little detail makes me happy that you can even sit and relax on the levels. Like more of that, more of the interactivity. In terms of interactivity, you guys did it. You guys landed it for me because a game is supposed to be fun. I like that it's meant to. I feel like really that the story just is almost there. So you have something to think about in the background, like a motivation for getting through each levels. You're trying to find Mirren's research. It just gives it gives the player motivation to get to the end. You're trying to see what her conclusion ultimately is because your goals are aligned. Everyone's goals are aligned. So we need to get this research. But you really stop and take in this scenery. And it's funny to see my evolution from the beginning of when I started to the end of what I thought in the beginning was going on in this world to what the conclusion was. So it was really cool. I didn't even realize in the beginning that the character was voiceless, silent protagonist, but it was solid. It was definitely solid. And I like the whole idea that they really emphasize that idea that everyone creates their own reality or each reality was different. And what's funny is it's like your imagination will act in your head and your self-concept of yourself and where you would live. And basically like when we're kids, like the childhood stuff that we bring to light here. That's what this felt like. It was like each character felt like maybe it was a development member of the team or a dev member on the team. Am I saying that right? Yeah. And they put themselves in the game in a way where it's like they related with one of the characters. I related with all of them actually, but it was like each reality, each space was like, it's like when I think about this is the best way is to give an example from my own life and you'll sort of see how I'm connected with the game. But it's like if I was in the game and I was one of the people working within this simulation, my workspaces, like I said earlier, would have gaming posters and things like that. And then you'd probably go off into one part of my whole workspace and see like a whole knight's castle type of, you got like medieval tables and everything. Like I would have expanded on the castle that is actually in the game. You would have went through my workspace and I would have had this whole medieval setup, swords and antiques on walls. And then I really like mythology. So you maybe through my levels, you would have had Norse mythology on one corner because, love that stuff. And then you would have had like Egyptian stuff on another. And then you would have went over here and it was like the Mayans and Incas. And that's what you would have found in my little reality. Because when I definitely have my own house and space, I'm having relics and everything and like the African masks, that whole thing. I'm doing all of that and it would be like a museum. So if you went through my section of reality, that's like what I would build for myself. And even here in where in my apartment now, I've got like an altar to my right. I got the gaming puzzle if you've seen me put up. So shit, if I was to put it in the game, I'd have you be able to walk on that gaming puzzle. That would be crazy if that could get coded in the game. The little puzzle I did on my other channel, Samuel Rel, where I showed that I did a 1,000-piece puzzle. It'd be insane if in this game they had it was like a all the PS1 titles or like the old school titles in a puzzle, and each one, literally looking at each one like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, and all these games, the first Dance Dance Revolution, Resident Evil, and looking at all that stuff is crazy. Imagine with this game and how they were nailing perspective, if you were able to walk across that entire puzzle, but only in the imagination, I guess. But it was sick. It was pretty sick. This whole game was pretty sick, and that's I'm connecting that to the characters basically. Is each character had their own thing. When you discovered the weights and the evil eyes and Haraya's plants and Mirren's like sheer amount of inorganic purple foam mattress material that was breathing everywhere. So that, and she also had other things. She was really space orientated and film. She was into photography too. So she had the whole, you found little rooms that were like red rooms. And also, I noticed that with her portals, and I noticed that with Hiraya, she was in the music a lot, so she had the guitars across her wall, and the little boombox played a role, like sound frequencies and vibrations played a role into the levels. And Mirren, her levels were like, yeah, you found little red rooms with the little dipping stuff in photography, so that was pretty cool too. And on top of why the end of the game started getting cool was it was all their ideas kind of mending and mashing together and becoming like this whole chaotic amalgamation of everything. You found like the optical illusions, the everything. It was cool. It was really cool. So 10 out of 10 would play again, and I'm jealous of you mofos that get to play for the first time. 10 out of 10 isn't my final rating, but just like 10 out of 10 would play again. I had to rhyme. And last but not least, the conclusion. The conclusion is I would give this game probably, right? Probably an 8, 7 point. I want to give it like okay. I don't want to be mean. I want to give it a 7.5 to 8. And here's the reason. I can't give it a solid 10 out of 10. And okay, I can give certain sections of it 10 out of 10, but that's what is why it makes it a 7.5, because just the other areas lack. So in terms of gameplay and the fact that everything works and mends together, I was even saying it during the gameplay. How did y'all get this to work? I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. The fact that y'all got all these mechanics to work is simply impressive, and don't take this rating personal. I'm going to say that to all ratings and all things. It's just my own personal opinion. But the story lacked just, I almost wish that it was just a simulation that y'all were playing in to just, like, okay. Because this talks about the ending, so I don't want to talk about it. But it's almost like I wish it was just a simulation where y'all went in to discover new features or new things about reality that you could twist and put together and not push it. Because that was the whole thing behind Mirren's ambition, is like Hiraya was like some things, Chi Lang, I think this was his line where he said some things were just not meant to be solved and things became too chaotic towards the end. And I kind of just wish that happened and it all like tied back together, or maybe had a different bit of an ending. Still not going to say the ending, but it just felt like not a good ending to the game. Like those two solid points that make it a 10 out of 10, just, I feel like just from how the game ended, it just didn't, I want to say it because I want to talk about it. So I'm going to say spoilers right here. If you don't want to hear about this part, then click off now. You've been warned. I'll give you all a countdown of 5, and then I'm just going to talk about the ending. The ending of the game ends with you basically needing to find an escape out of the simulation because things just became crashing down. The camera you had is glitching and it creates black holes. So you're like literally destroying and creating space. And when you get to the end and make your choice, basically Kate's going to go along with it. All of the hard work that everybody did there was destroyed. Now, I didn't talk about Kate as a character, but I'll put that in the conclusion. What I like is Kate was giving like a lot of wisdom and from the things he observed, and also all the data he could go through that he was observing. But he said like the Hiraya was basically right with the whole beauty in the degradation of things rotting and being forgotten and coming to an end and being like lost ruins to be rediscovered. That was the beauty in it. But then it sucks for the ending because it's like, well, he just feels like Jesse couldn't upload him onto something else. And then the whole time with the person being a silent protagonist, it's like we can't talk back to Jesse. So we can't tell her that we found this cool cat in here that is technically, now we have to argue if it's self-aware because he knew he was going to go along with it. Yeah, I didn't like the writing too much when it came to that. Now, the relationships between each of the characters, I did like. But the ending just felt Meh, meh. And even the fact that her machine that she was creating to like alter the weather or whatever didn't work. I was like, okay, that makes sense. I was kind of expecting that. And I felt that moment because I was like, damn, all her hard work and how long they probably spent here. But again, we don't get a time frame, so I have no idea how long they spent in these. And I don't know if that plays to the whole they're in like a VR simulation thing and you can lose track of time, but it just did not make sense. I don't know how long they spent, and I wish we knew how long they spent on the research. We just get this idea that they were working tirelessly to get it done. Didn't land for me. And then the whole ending, which in this with this simulation, they basically did manifest a real organic plant that you brought back with you to the real world, which is that whole idea, which is I feel like a story done before where you would plant it and then that's soon gonna grow. But it would be really unfortunate if they didn't protect that one seedling with their life and like they planted it and someone just came by and stepped on it. It was like, well, they just doomed humanity. But what I was able to gather, which then I say they leave it up for the player to interpret, which I wish it was more. They did a little bit more. Is basically I'm assuming the if there was ever a following game or something along the lines where they expand on their universe, it's that they got that one plant, they cultivate it, they grow it into many plants, and they save the earth and the oxygen and everything, and they filter out the plants start filtering out all the yeah. And I was like, okay, I don't know if the water on Earth is tainted by this time. So what are you gonna fuel this little seedling with? It just left too many questions. So I tried not to think about the story and just go like the gameplay solid. Dang, you know what? Actually, see, based on that, because of how they tried to spin the story, maybe I go back to 7.5 because that's what could have really drove it home if we had more interaction with the characters. Because everything else was so good. The ambient music, the music, each level had its own flair, beautifully well sculpted and put together. I really don't have any arguments with that. Jesse, the voice actors did really good. Jesse felt like a cool character, and it's like, that's it. It was more a display of the gameplay and hands on it, and hands just that gameplay was fun. That's how a game should be. Super fun, bending reality. But then that story really takes down the points because it's like honestly, if it was just a game based around gameplay, it would be totally hard to not give it a straight 9 to 10 out of 10 just on gameplay. So if it wasn't just a generic like we're playing around in this simulation or maybe even trying to find our father or why he got sucked into this world based on the ending, like if you were to switch up the story in that, like if it was more a story on what happened to the researchers, what happened to them, that would have been cooler. But you don't get any you don't get any clarification, and that just messes it up for me. So yeah, that's my final deduction on it. Is I'm gonna say 7.5 because you don't even know what happened to them. Like I don't know. I don't know. Who's your character? Did y'all even know them? Is Jesse like a friend of them? I might have missed this in the beginning, but I'm gonna go back because I don't know. But I'm pretty sure there was no clarification. So yeah, man. And I played this straight all the way through. So it's really hard to really forget what I've seen throughout the game right now. I'm actually actively trying to not say certain things so I don't spoil too much for y'all. But yeah, I don't know. My conclusion is play the damn game. It is solid. There is passion put in it. It's very obvious that y'all put passion into it. Just I'm just the guy who played it. You guys do all the coding and the beautiful works of art, everything. But surely when it comes to story, it just like could have been a different story altogether. Like we could have been going in there to find people or there was four researchers that were really important and they were there for some reason they went missing. And even though I would have been like, oh, pretty generic, it would have been served for motivation of maybe why they went crazy, why they went insane. Maybe we found their souls or essence trapped within the game or their consciousness uploaded within there. Like it would have been sick to talk to four different animals or four different cats that were like them. The four different names: Haraya, Aaron, um, Mirren, and Chi Luang. It would have been cool if there was like their consciousness was trapped in there or something. I could think of different stories that different basic stories that would have made the motivation feel better after getting an ending and then just leaving the simulation. So I don't know. It didn't. It felt weird. We did get a happy ending. I don't know. It was a cliffhanger, bro. I don't know. But 7.5 out of 10. That's my final verdict. 7.5. Solid game. 10 out of 10 gameplay. Amazing. But that story kind of wiped it for me. Yeah. It just killed a lot of the points. I feel such like a dickhead saying that, but I can't give it higher because the story was really, it felt almost like I felt weird, like continuously listening. I don't know. I can't. The voice recordings and everything in the journals were cool, but I cannot. It was just like, it didn't sell me. It sold me on gameplay for sure. It didn't sell me on why we were doing anything we were doing. And I feel like to really elevate your game, or if I'm standing as a reviewer that is honest to how you would elevate your game to the next level, you've got to try to hit on all points. And yeah, and for it being really well done gameplay wise, the story it's just like, it's okay. But voice acting, character personalities, everything done so well. Just how they tied in sucks. I would have rather really met them or started talking to them through portions of their levels, through AIs that they left behind that was their voice. Or like, oh, Aaron saying, oh, this was my prized love possession of this art canvas I painted. And then you get to Haraya and she's like, oh, I've always loved music, something. And like, she's like, have fun in there and da-da-da. But no, didn't. We got Jesse basically losing connection. Good game. Play it. 7.5. I'm out of here. Peace. I'm actually recording this post-edit. I actually do like the ending. I'm going to give the game an 8. My true rating. I'm going to call this part of the video true rating. I'm going to give it an 8. Because when I went back and watched the footage of the ending, I do like what the game ended on, because I have studied deep into metaphysics, spiritual concepts, everything. And I do like the whole thing that it came down to, that the truth that Mirren was searching for, what it was. The reason I gave it 7.5 on the story is because I know this story already. And it's so funny to me that lots of people, it's such a simple understanding of life and reality itself that people don't get it. So it goes over a lot of people's heads. But I do like the ending because it's literally like, duh, like that is it about reality. Be yourself, come up with your own conclusions and your own answers. There's no one right truth and blah, blah. But that still could have been told through a different story of like, for them going mad. It would make sense because they known the truth. Because that's what Kate was hinting at. The fact that he didn't want to tell you the truth, that he knew the schematics you were looking for, because he didn't want you to go through the same feelings that they felt. But because of how the pacing of the game is, you don't really feel it. So I almost still want to give it a 7.5. But I will give it an 8 because I do like that. I do like that. No. Now that I've explained that in the video, now I almost do want to stand on the 7.5. Actually, okay. The writing isn't too bad when it came to that conclusion. Kate saved it. And that's the only character I didn't really talk about, the AI cat. But petting him kept me sane. No, the game was awesome. Yeah, no, I got to stand on 7.5 because these are concepts I already knew about. Like, I knew that was going to be the conclusion of the game, even when I heard the certain things that Haraya was saying. So yeah, the truth, or trying to know. Like, sometimes you don't need to know. Just come up with something that satisfies you and then just enjoy your human experience while you're here. But I do like it being a cautionary tale about like, we should not destroy nature. Like, let's not become so artificial that it destroys nature. Integrate both together. Make it an organic simulation. And that technically was an organic simulation. But that's the true rating. All right, 7.5. But I wanted to say that I'm teetering on 8 and 7.5, so you take what you will. But I think, Yeah, because I can't make up my mind, but it can't hit that 9 or a 10. The story would have to be better, but everything else that gets it up to that 8 and 7.5 is the music and everything. I love it all. Love it all. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.